Welcome to ALP Corner, Family Law in the Heart of Houston.
Welcome to ALP Corner, Family Law in the Heart of Houston. I'm your host, Abigail Vaca, and today I'm joined by Allecia L. Pottinger, the CEO of ALP Law Firm. Allecia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Abigail, for having me. I really appreciate it.
So can you tell us a little about your background and what led you to specialize in family law, particularly divorce cases in Houston?
You're taking me way back, Abigail. I would say about 25 years ago, I did pro bono work for a group called the NAACP, and we did family law cases for people who were disenfranchised and also who suffered from HIV, who were infected and affected with HIV. And so from there, that started a trend. Once I went on my own, it seemed like family law was the best fit for me because I really enjoyed it. As the course of continuing to do family law cases, child custody, because I really care about my clients. And this is a way to kind of give back still, even though they're paying, they're still giving back. I'm still giving back. And I also like to, I just like the drama sometimes of family law. And one of our taglines is we take the drama out of baby mama drama. We started, doing everybody. And then we looked up and saw that a lot of men were coming to us. And I think that was probably because we really do fight very hard for men because they don't get a fair shake in the legal system, especially when you're dealing with young children. And so the fight began, and we've been in it for about 30 years.
Okay. So what can someone do to prepare for a divorce, both emotionally and legally, before they file the paperwork?
It is so important that they start first with the emotional. Why that is so important is because if you're still emotional and you're talking to an attorney, you're going to run your bill up tremendously rather than, why pay an attorney $500 an hour to hear you vent when you could pay your counselor $100 an hour or $200 an hour to really get at the heart of what your emotions are. And so I find that when clients have dealt with their emotions, have dealt with either they could go to a divorce coach, their pastor, rabbi, priest, you name it, just get an outlet, a good girlfriend, good guy friend, just have an outlet to vent some of that stuff that boils up inside of you as you're going through a divorce. As far as from the legal standpoint, what we're looking for is we're looking for documents. So start gathering bank statements, tax returns, car titles, deeds records, financials, credit card statements, you name it. If it has the title, if it has a bill to it, you want to have access to it and start gathering those documents before they get locked down. Because eventually, once the divorce is filed, you may not have access to those documents as you did before the filing for divorce.
That's all great advice. Can you walk us through the process of a divorce in Houston?
Yes, actually, the process is pretty much the same all across the state, not just in Houston, but all across the state. And here in Texas, what you're looking at is you file first, and that is called a pleading. You file that pleading, and it's a document that says to the other side, you're being sued for divorce. And once that is done and it's filed with the court will give us some documents that we will need in order to serve the other person with this quote unquote lawsuit that is the divorce. And we like to hire process servers in order to serve those documents because they get out a little bit faster than going through your sheriff or your constable office. Once the other party has received those divorce papers, they have a short period of time to respond to the lawsuit. Now, the other side could get lawyered up or they could respond on their own. But bottom line, that starts the real action in court. Once that happens, typically, and I'll just give a 30-foot view, typically what ends up happening after that, if you're looking for temporary orders, you need something from the court fairly quickly. You're going to have to go in Houston, you're going to have to go to mediation first, which mediation is a third party, neutral party, trying to get both sides to work on an agreement before having to go to court. If they don't settle in mediation, then you go and you have temporary orders. The court will listen, make a rendition, will file the documents, the order of the court. And then from there, you have some options. You can do an inventory, what we call inventory and appraisement, or you can go do all full out discovery. And what discovery is sending a document to the other side so that they get information, so that you get information on what they have in their pocket. What are they hiding? What's the ball the shiny objects that we need to really figure out and get beyond those shiny objects. And that's called discovery. It can get a little bit expensive depending on how much is at stake and what's in the marital estate. After discovery, and that goes from both sides. One side will send it, and that means the other side has to respond. The other side will typically send it, and that means your side will have to respond. After that, and right about in the discovery period, we're about 6 to 9 months in. After the discovery, then we go back to mediation. And if mediation is not successful, then you go to final trial. You have two options with respect to final trial. You have the jury trial and you have a bench trial. Would not recommend jury trial because it's very expensive unless you're really lost in temporary orders, because what the judge signs in temporary orders is typically what happens in the final order. Outside of that, I would say that you would have your bench trial. Court would make a ruling, divide the assets, tell you what would happen with respect to the little ones and who would be the primary, and go from there. Once that happens, we'll create orders. We divide up assets, relations orders. And what that does is it divides up your 401k, your retirement accounts, your pensions, etc. That process, you're looking at about 18 months. Yeah.
So then how can someone protect their financial interests during a divorce, especially if they're concerned about hidden assets or financial deception of some sort?
Typically what you do, that's why I said you want to comb the documents and see what's coming into the house before you file, opening up mail, those type of things, or searching for mail that has been opened. The way that you protect yourself is that you do need to have an account. One of the things my mother used to always say, woman should always have some hard time money, hard time 100 or hard time 50, something in your pocket in case something happens. And so same with in the divorce, if you're a man or female, you want to have something that's outside of the joint account, so that if in the event that one party starts to raid the account, because once they get the money and they spend it, it's nothing you can do until at the end of the divorce to try to get some equity there. But for the most part, you are SOL, shit out of luck, if you don't get those documents and don't get those funds and finances out of the account before the other person takes it out.
Okay. So in your experience, what's the most challenging aspect of divorce proceedings, and how do you typically guide your clients through it?
Oh, the most difficult thing is definitely the kiddos. When you're not only divorcing your kids, divorcing your spouse, but those are kids that are left behind, and they are in the middle of this situation. And so the most difficult thing going through a divorce is what we call the possession and access portion, and naming who's going to be the managing conservator with the right to name the residence of the child. How I coach my clients is to say, look, if you can co-parent with the other parent, that looks much better than if you're snidey and you're arguing and you're name calling, especially in front of the kids, there's violence or something like that. That's just a no-no. And so the best thing, and always, think that you're being recorded. Always think that something is recording or writing or doing something. The other side is keeping an anecdotal record. And so what you really want to do is you really want to make sure that you are co-parenting with the other side, and you are trying to do everything that you could possibly do in order to help facilitate the children spending more time with the other parent. Okay. What that does is it sets you up for looking like you are the better parent because you know how to co-parent with the other side. And that is the best thing that I've found that works very well for my clients, just giving them that visual picture and letting them understand that's their parent too. You're not the only parent, so you need to understand that they want to spend time with the other parent as well. They don't hate their other parent, and it's not good for you to just malign the other spouse because, they're a cheater or they're, a spendthrift. Those things, when you talk about the other parent, you're really hurting your children because they are from that other parent as well. And so it doesn't look good when you're talking about and really disparaging the other party.
It's hard to stay neutral. So you had mentioned mediation before. Mm-hmm. What role does that play in divorce proceedings? And do you ever recommend it as an alternative to going to court?
Absolutely. Let me tell you why. The mediator doesn't have a dog in the fight, right? And what you want to come out with is a win-win scenario. What the mediator does, the mediator is neutral. They'll go to one side and say, this is what the offer is. They'll come to the other side and they'll say, okay, they didn't like this part of the offer. They didn't like that part of the offer. What can we do? And you try to work out a settlement that is going to work for both of you. And that's why mediation is so important. And really, it helps drive down cost if you can get the parties to come to their own resolution. They may not be all the way happy, but at least it's something that they can live with. And they did it themselves rather than letting the judge come in and just making a decision who doesn't know you, who doesn't, only gets, a few hours to make an assessment of what your family dynamics are and what you have in your family life. And that may not always come across in those few hours. Whereas if you do the mediation, you get a settlement agreement. That settlement agreement, believe it or not, it trumps anything that the court might think is in the best interest of the children. And it is not revocable, non-revocable. So if a party comes away 2 days after and said, oh, I don't like that. No, I was forced out. My head was, whatever. They can't come back and say, I don't agree anymore. So once they sign on the dotted line, that is what goes. And so it's good in the sense that they can't come back. And under very, very, very limited circumstances, can you overturn mediated settlement agreement?
How important is it to have an experienced family law attorney to guide you and protect you through that divorce process? And what can go wrong if you try to do it alone?
Why an experienced attorney is very crucial, because you need someone who knows what the judges are, knows how the judges rule, knows the ins and outs of the courts, understands the law and the dynamics, the case law that is driving some of the rulings that the court is going to make. What I found is that when people file documents themselves. They don't know really some of the lingo that are in those documents, and they make terrible, terrible mistakes in creating and drafting their orders. For example, I have a client who shared 50-50 custody, but she thought, well, I need to help out the other side, so I'll pay child support. Get that. She's, doing the lion's share of all the work and taking care of the kiddos. And she just decided that she would pay child support. Well, that wasn't a good thing. And it ended up that we are now having to modify that order because right now that order is not workable, especially considering the amount of time that she spends and taking care of the kids. Another situation that I had that is quite recently, the gentleman thought he was doing what he, was supposed to do. And it was so twisted, and because he didn't know, it sounded good, I need a motion to challenge the jurisdiction, that type of thing. And he didn't know what he was doing. He filed those particular documents, and we just had to scrap, non-suit that case and start all over again. So that was time and money wasted for the client. So it's just best to hire someone off the bat that knows what they're doing and can get you to navigate you through that process a whole lot quicker and a whole lot less expensive.
That was all great information. Thank you so much for joining me today, Allecia.
Thank you, Abigail. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to ALP Corner, Family Law in the Heart of Houston. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on our channel.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.